Ji-Woo's hands shook as he organized the old data crystals. The archive room was quiet and dark, exactly how he liked it. He had been working for 3 months in the Imperial Palace, and he preferred to stay invisible. Humans were new to the Galactic Imperium. Most aliens did not like them very much. It was safer to keep his head down and do his job. The alarm broke the silence. Ji-Woo jumped and dropped a crystal. The sound was loud and terrible, echoing through every hallway in the massive palace. Red lights flashed on the walls. His communication device buzzed against his wrist. All personnel report to the Grand Assembly Hall immediately. The Emperor is dying. Ji-Woo felt his stomach drop. Emperor the Thraxus had ruled for thousands of years. Everyone said he would live forever. But now, he was dying, and that meant the transfer ceremony would happen. Ji-Woo had heard stories about it. The Emperor's Crimson Panther would choose a new master. He did not want to go. He wanted to hide in the archives until everything was over. But the message said all personnel. If he did not show up, he could lose his job. Worse, he could insult the imperial family. Humans could not afford to insult anyone right now. Ji-Woo left the archive room and joined the crowd moving through the palace corridors. There were thousands of beings from hundreds of different species. Some walked on 2 legs, some on 4, some on 6. Some had scales, some had fur. Some had smooth skin, in colors Ji-Woo had never seen on Earth. All of them were moving toward the Grand Assembly Hall. The hall was enormous. Ji-Woo had never been inside before. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it. Thousands of beings packed the space, standing shoulder to shoulder. Ji-Woo pushed his way to the back, trying to stay hidden behind a group of tall, blue-skinned aliens. Near the front of the hall, on a raised platform, lay Emperor the Thraxus. Even dying, he looked powerful. His body was covered in silver scales that caught the light. 6 arms rested on his chest. His eyes, all 3 of them, were closed. Next to the Emperor sat Bloodfang. Ji-Woo had never seen the Crimson Panther before. The creature was massive, bigger than any Earth animal. His fur was deep red, almost glowing in the hall's light. Muscles rippled under his coat. His eyes were bright gold, watching everything. Even sitting still, the panther looked dangerous. "He has been with the Emperor for 80 years, someone whispered nearby. "The panther always chooses the strongest," another voice said. "The Crown Prince? Probably. Or, maybe, General Carthon." Ji-Woo tried to make himself smaller. He did not care who the panther chose. He just wanted this ceremony to end so he could go back to the archives. The Emperor took his last breath. The hall became silent. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Bloodfang stood up, slowly. The panther was even bigger standing. His shoulders came up to a tall man's chest. His paws were the size of dinner plates. The crowd waited. Noble warriors stepped forward, standing tall and proud. Generals in battle armor stood at attention. The Crown Prince, the Thraxian, moved to the front, his 4 arms crossed over his massive chest. Bloodfang began to walk. His steps were silent despite his size. He moved past the Crown Prince without looking at him. He walked past the generals. He ignored the noble warriors. His golden eyes swept across the crowd. Ji-Woo's heart started beating faster. The panther was moving toward the back of the hall, toward the area where the lower-level workers stood, toward where Ji-Woo was trying to hide. "No," Ji-Woo whispered. The blue-skinned aliens in front of him moved aside. They knew something was happening. Everyone near Ji-Woo stepped back, creating a clear space around him. Bloodfang locked eyes with Ji-Woo. The panther's gaze was intense, intelligent, and terrifying. Ji-Woo wanted to run. His legs felt frozen. His hands were shaking so hard he had to clench them into fists. The panther walked faster. Then he ran. 3 massive bounds brought him across the hall. Before Ji-Woo could move, before he could even scream, Bloodfang pressed his enormous head against Ji-Woo's chest. The world exploded in sensation. Ji-Woo felt something snap into place in his mind. It was like a door opening that he did not know existed. Suddenly, he could feel what the Panther felt. Calm, certainty, protection, pride. The bond had formed. The hall erupted in chaos. Voices shouted in hundreds of languages. Some beings stepped forward in anger. Others stepped back in shock. Ambassador Hana, the senior human diplomat, pushed through the crowd toward Jiwoo. Her face was pale. "What have you done?" someone roared. It was Commander Velcaris, head of the Imperial Guard. He was a massive reptilian creature, with 4 arms and scales like armor. A human? A prey species? This is impossible. The law is clear, Ambassador Hana said loudly, her voice cutting through the noise. Bloodfang's choice cannot be refused or revoked. It has been this way for 3,000 years. The Panther has gone mad, General Carthon growled. He was a warrior from a species that looked like walking bears covered in black fur. This human is nothing. An archive worker. He has no training, no strength, no honor. Jiwoo could not speak. He could barely breathe. Bloodfang remained pressed against him. A warm, solid presence. Through their new bond, Jiwoo felt the Panther's emotions more clearly now. Bloodfang was not confused. He was not mad. He had chosen exactly who he wanted. "Take the human to the champion's quarters, Crown Prince," the Raxian said. His voice was cold and hard. "Guard him well. We will discuss this matter with the Crown Council." 4 guards surrounded Jiwoo. They did not touch him, because Bloodfang was still at his side. The Panther made it clear that no one would harm his new master. They walked through the crowd, beings parting before them. Jiwoo heard the whispers and angry mutters. "A human champion. Impossible. The Imperium will fall." The champion's quarters were in a part of the palace Jiwoo had never seen. The rooms were huge. The main chamber was larger than Jiwoo's entire family home back on Earth. There were soft couches, a massive bed, windows that showed the stars, and technology Jiwoo did not recognize. The guards left him there. Bloodfang walked into the room like he owned it. The Panther jumped onto the bed and lay down, watching Jiwoo with those golden eyes. Jiwoo collapsed on the floor. His legs could not hold him anymore. He put his head in his hands and tried not to cry. "What just happened?" he whispered. "Why me?" Through the bond, he felt Bloodfang's response. It was not words, exactly. More like feelings and images. The Panther had seen something in Jiwoo. Something the others did not have. Something important. But Jiwoo had no idea what that could be. He was just an intern. He filed data crystals. He was afraid of almost everything. He had never held a weapon in his life. He did not understand alien politics or military strategy. He was completely, absolutely, terrifyingly wrong for this position. A soft knock came at the door. Ambassador Hana entered without waiting for an answer. She looked at Jiwoo on the floor and sighed. "Get up," she said. Her voice was not unkind, but it was firm. "You are the Imperial champion now. Masters of the hunt, do not sit on floors." "I did not want this," Jiwoo said, his voice cracked. "I know," Hana replied. "But you have it anyway. The bond cannot be broken. You cannot run from it. You cannot refuse it. So you have 2 choices. You can fail and embarrass every human in the Imperium, or you can figure out how to survive this." She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. 20 years ago, humans were alone on Earth. We thought we were special. Then the Imperium found us, and we learned we were nothing. Just another species. Weak, young, barely worth noticing. We have been fighting for respect ever since. She turned back to Jiwoo. "Right now, you represent all of humanity. What you do matters. How you handle this matters." Jiwoo stood up slowly. His legs still felt weak, but he managed to stay standing. "I am going to fail," he said quietly. "I am not strong. I am not brave. I do not know how to fight, or lead, or do any of the things a champion should do. Hana walked to him and put a hand on his shoulder. Maybe Bloodfang did not choose you for those things, she said. Maybe he chose you for something else. You have time to figure out what that is, but you need to start trying. After she left, Jiwoo sat on the edge of the massive bed. Bloodfang moved closer and rested his head on Jiwoo's lap. The weight was heavy but somehow comforting. Through their bond, Jiwoo felt the panther's steady calm. I hope you know what you are doing, Jiwoo whispered to Bloodfang. Because I have no idea. The panther's purr rumbled through the room. In Jiwoo's mind, he felt Bloodfang's certainty. The panther had no doubts at all. Jiwoo did not sleep that first night. He lay on the huge bed with Bloodfang taking up most of the space. Every time he closed his eyes, he remembered the moment in the Grand Assembly Hall. He remembered the shock on everyone's faces, the anger, the disgust. By morning, his situation felt even worse. A servant brought him breakfast, but the alien could barely look at him. When she set down the tray, she kept her distance from Bloodfang. The panther watched her with calm, golden eyes until she hurried out of the room. Jiwoo picked at the food. Nothing tasted right. His stomach was too tight with worry to eat much. Through the bond, he felt Bloodfang's patience. The panther was waiting for something, but Jiwoo did not know what. Someone pounded on the door. Before Jiwoo could answer, it opened. His roommate Dae-hun burst in, his maintenance uniform still covered in grease. Are you insane? Dae-hun shouted. The entire palace is talking about you. Half of them want you dead. What were you thinking? I was not thinking anything, Jiwoo said miserably. The panther just chose me. Dae-hun paced back and forth, running his hands through his hair. He kept glancing at Bloodfang nervously. You need to run, Dae-hun said. Get on a ship back to Earth. Disappear. They will kill you here, Jiwoo. These aliens do not play games. I cannot run from a psychic bond, Jiwoo replied. He could feel Bloodfang in his mind. A constant warm presence. And where would I go? Earth does not want a failed champion bringing shame to humanity. Dae-hun sat down hard on one of the couches. He looked defeated. Then what are you going to do? I have no idea, Jiwoo admitted. The door opened again. This time, it was Ambassador Hana. And she was not alone. Behind her came 3 people Jiwoo did not recognize. These are your trainers, Hana announced. You have a lot to learn, and not much time. The first trainer stepped forward. She was human, tall and muscular, with short black hair and scars on her arms. I am Instructor Mirai, she said. I teach combat to Earth Fleet soldiers. I am going to try to keep you alive. She looked Jiwoo up and down and frowned. We have our work cut out for us. The second trainer was an old human man with a long white beard. He wore simple robes and moved with careful grace. I am Master Yule, he said softly. I will teach you to manage the bond with your companion. The third was not a trainer but a palace official. He was a thin alien with purple skin and too many eyes. I am Protocol, Master Vesh. I will teach you how to not embarrass yourself at state functions. Dae-hun quietly left, giving Jiwoo a worried look as he went. The training began immediately. Instructor Mirai took Jiwoo to a private training room. Bloodfang followed, watching everything with interest. Have you ever fought before? Mirai asked. No, Jiwoo said. Have you ever held a weapon? No. Have you ever even been in a real fight? Schoolyard stuff counts. No. Mirai closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Okay, we start from the very beginning then. She spent the next 3 hours trying to teach Jiwoo basic fighting stances. He was terrible at it. His body did not move the way it should. He was too slow, too uncoordinated, too afraid of getting hurt. By the end, Mirai looked exhausted and frustrated. You are going to get killed, she said bluntly. You know that, right? Yes, Jiwoo replied quietly. After combat training came lessons with Master Yule. The old man took Jiwoo to a meditation room filled with soft cushions and burning incense. The bond is a two-way connection, Yul explained. Right now, you are only receiving from Bloodfang. You feel his emotions, but you are not sending anything back. That is why you feel so overwhelmed. How do I send things back? Jiwoo asked. You share yourself, Yul said. Your thoughts, your feelings, your nature. The bond works when both sides give and take. They spent hours practicing. Yul taught Jiwoo breathing exercises and meditation techniques. Slowly, carefully, Jiwoo learned to open his mind to Bloodfang more fully. It was scary. It felt like letting someone see all his fears and weaknesses. But when he did it, something changed. He felt Bloodfang respond. The Panther was not disappointed in him. Bloodfang did not see weakness. He saw something else, something Jiwoo could not quite understand yet. The days blurred together. Training with Mirai in the morning, always ending with Jiwoo bruised and discouraged. Meditation with Master Yul in the afternoon. Slowly, learning to manage the bond. Protocol lessons with Vesh in the evening, memorizing endless rules about alien customs and ceremonies. Jiwoo was exhausted all the time. He fell asleep every night, convinced he would fail. 2 weeks after the choosing, everything changed. Jiwoo was required to attend a state dinner. It was a formal event, with nobles and warriors from across the Imperium. Jiwoo wore the ceremonial armor of the Imperial champion. It felt too heavy and too big. Bloodfang walked beside him, the only thing keeping Jiwoo from running away. The dining hall was magnificent. Hundreds of beings sat at long tables covered with strange foods. Conversations filled the air in dozens of languages. When Jiwoo entered with Bloodfang, the room went quiet. Everyone turned to stare. Jiwoo found his seat. It was at the high table, next to important generals and nobles. He sat down carefully, trying not to draw more attention. Bloodfang lay down beside his chair. The dinner began. Jiwoo did not understand most of the conversations. The aliens spoke about battles and politics, and things he knew nothing about. He stayed quiet and tried to be invisible. Then a massive figure stood up at the far end of the table. It was Gormanth, a warlord from the Kronak Dominion. He had 3 heads on a body that looked like it was made from rock and muscle. Each head was covered in horns. His arms were as thick as tree trunks. I have a question, Gormanth said loudly. All 3 heads spoke at once, their voices combining into something deep and terrible. How does a prey species become imperial champion? The room went silent again. Everyone was looking at Jiwoo. The Panther chose him, Crown Prince, Thraxian said coldly. The law is clear. The law was made for warriors, Gormanth replied. Not for weak creatures who hide in archives. I think the Panther made a mistake. I think it has gone mad. I challenge the human's right to the title. Through the bond, Jiwoo felt Bloodfang's instant rage. It was like fire in his mind. But there was something else too. Offense. The Panther was not just angry. He was insulted that anyone would question his choice. Jiwoo's mouth went dry. A formal challenge. He had learned about these in his protocol lessons. They were legal. They were binding. If he refused, he would lose the title and be exiled in shame. Everyone waited for his answer. Jiwoo wanted to refuse. He wanted to say that Gormanth was right. He was weak. He was not a warrior. He had no business being champion. But then he felt Bloodfang's emotions more clearly. The Panther had not chosen randomly. Bloodfang saw something in Jiwoo that others did not. The Panther believed in him, even when Jiwoo did not believe in himself. Maybe that was enough. I accept your challenge, Jiwoo heard himself say. His voice shook, but the words came out clearly. Gormanth laughed with all 3 mouths. Good. We fight in 3 days. In the Imperial arena. I will try not to kill you too quickly, little human. That night, Jiwoo returned to his quarters and had a complete breakdown. He shouted and cried and punched a wall until his knuckles bled. Bloodfang watched him calmly through it all. "I am going to die," Jiwoo said to the Panther. "You chose the wrong person. I cannot win. I cannot even fight." Through the bond, Bloodfang sent feelings of calm and certainty. The Panther was not worried at all. Instructor Mireille came to his quarters within the hour. She had already heard about the challenge. "We have 3 days," she said. "You cannot beat Gormanth in a straight fight. He is stronger, faster, and has been training for 100 years. So we do not try to beat him that way." "Then how?" Jiwoo asked desperately. "We use what you are good at," Mireille replied. "You notice things. You analyze patterns. That is why you are good at archive work. We combine that with Bloodfang's instincts." Master Yule joined them. "The bond goes both ways," he reminded Jiwoo. "You have been receiving from Bloodfang. Now you need to learn to give. Share your human mind with him. Let him see what you see." They spent the next 3 days training differently. Mireille did not try to make Jiwoo into a warrior. Instead, she taught him to observe, to watch for patterns in movement, to notice small details that gave away an opponent's next action. Jiwoo practiced sharing these observations with Bloodfang through the bond. At first it was clumsy and slow, but slowly, something clicked. When Jiwoo saw a pattern, Bloodfang could feel it. When the Panther understood the pattern, he could react faster than any opponent could move. The day of the fight arrived. 50,000 beings filled the Imperial arena. Jiwoo walked onto the sand wearing light armor. His hands were shaking. Bloodfang walked beside him, calm and powerful. Gormanth entered from the other side. He carried a massive war axe that looked like it could split a boulder. All 3 heads grinned at Jiwoo. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. The fight began. Gormanth charged like a landslide. His axe swung down where Jiwoo had been standing. But Jiwoo was not there anymore. He had moved, and Bloodfang had moved with him. Jiwoo did not try to fight. He watched. His archive-trained mind noticed everything. Gormanth favored his left side. One of his heads watched the axe more than the others, telegraphing each strike. His weight shifted a specific way before each major attack. Through the bond, Jiwoo shared everything he saw with Bloodfang. The Panther stopped fighting on instinct alone. He moved with tactics and precision. When Gormanth swung high, Bloodfang went low. When the warlord expected an attack from the front, they struck from behind. It took 2 minutes. Gormanth went down hard, his axe flying from his hands. Bloodfang stood over him, teeth at his throat. The fight was over. The arena erupted in shocked noise. Jiwoo collapsed to his knees, throwing up from adrenaline and fear. But he was alive. He had won. As guards helped Jiwoo leave the arena, he felt something new through the bond. Bloodfang was proud. And for the first time since the choosing, Jiwoo felt a tiny spark of something that might have been confidence. Maybe, just maybe, the Panther had chosen correctly after all. 3 months had passed since Jiwoo became Imperial Champion. The victory over Gormanth had changed some things. People stopped openly mocking him. Guards nodded when he walked past, but Jiwoo could still feel the resentment in the palace. Many aliens believed a human should not hold such an important position. Crown Prince Thraxion, now Emperor Thraxion II, barely spoke to Jiwoo. When they met at official functions, the new emperor was cold and formal. Jiwoo understood. He was a reminder that things were changing in ways the old powers did not like, but some things had improved. Jiwoo was less terrified all the time. The bond with Bloodfang grew stronger each day. He could feel the Panther's emotions clearly now, and Bloodfang could feel his. When Jiwoo was afraid, the Panther sent calm. When Bloodfang was restless, Jiwoo helped him find peace. Instructor Mireille continued training him. He was still not a great fighter, but he was better. He had learned to survive. Master Yule taught him deeper meditation techniques. The protocol lessons with Vesh became easier as Jiwoo memorized more alien customs. Life had found a rhythm. Jiwoo thought maybe things would be okay. Then he noticed something strange. As Imperial Champion, Jiwoo had access to military briefings. It was part of his ceremonial duties, though no one actually expected him to understand them. During one boring afternoon meeting, Jiwoo listened to reports about supply shipments to border garrisons. His archive-trained mind noticed a pattern. The numbers did not match. 3 outposts reported receiving supply shipments, but the Central Logistics Report showed no record of those deliveries. It could have been a clerical error, but something about it bothered Jiwoo. That night, he mentioned it to Daehyun. His friend still visited regularly, usually bringing food from the lower-level cafeterias. Jiwoo missed the simple meals from before he became champion. Maybe someone is stealing supplies? Daehyun suggested. He was eating noodles from a container, sitting on Jiwoo's expensive couch. Bloodfang watched him, hoping for scraps. Maybe, Jiwoo said. But why would they steal from border outposts? Those places need everything they can get. You should probably forget about it, Daehyun advised. Do not look for trouble. You already have enough problems. But Jiwoo could not forget about it. His mind kept working on the pattern. Over the next week, he quietly reviewed more logistics reports. He found more discrepancies, supplies going to places they were not needed, equipment shipments that did not match deployment records. Small things, easy to miss, but they formed a pattern. Someone was siphoning military resources. The question was why. Jiwoo knew he should report this to someone. But who? He did not know who he could trust. If he was wrong, he would look foolish. If he was right, the person responsible might be powerful. He decided to investigate more carefully. Daehyun agreed to help. As a maintenance worker, Daehyun had access to service tunnels and infrastructure systems that few people noticed. He could move around the palace without drawing attention. They worked carefully over several weeks. Jiwoo analyzed data from his official briefings. Daehyun explored the physical routes of supply deliveries. Slowly, they pieced together the truth. The stolen supplies were being moved to hidden storage facilities on the edge of Imperial space. From there, they were being transferred to ships registered to the Hask Federation. The Hask were a rival power. Not quite enemies, but certainly not friends. Someone in the Imperial military was selling supplies to the Hask. That was bad. But as Jiwoo dug deeper, he found something worse. The stolen supplies included weapons, armor, and ship components, enough to equip a small invasion force. Jiwoo's hands shook as he reviewed the final data. This was not just theft. This was preparation for war. He found the connection buried in encrypted communications. General Carthon, the massive bear-like warrior who had called Jiwoo worthless at the choosing ceremony, was behind it all. He was communicating with Hask military leaders. They were planning something. Jiwoo took his findings to Ambassador Hana. She reviewed everything carefully, her face growing more serious with each page. "This is treason," she said quietly. "If you are right, Carthon is preparing a coup. He will overthrow the new emperor and blame it on the Hask. In the chaos, he will seize power." "What do I do?" Jiwoo asked. "You need proof," Hana replied. "Hard evidence. Right now, you have patterns and suspicious data. That is not enough to accuse a general, especially when you are a human, who many already distrust. How do I get proof?" Hana thought for a long moment. Carthon will need to meet with his conspirators face to face. Communications can be traced. They will want to finalize plans in person. If you can catch them in the act, you will have your proof. But how could Jiwoo catch them? He had no spy network, no loyal soldiers, no resources. He had Bloodfang, his 2 human friends, and very little else. The answer came 3 days later. Jiwoo received a message from General Carthon himself. He was summoned to the deep vaults beneath the palace for a routine ceremonial inspection. The message said that as Imperial champion, Jiwoo needed to verify the ancient weapons stored there. Jiwoo showed the message to Instructor Mirai. "It is a trap," she said immediately. "The deep vaults are isolated. No one goes down there except for rare inspections. He is going to kill you and claim it was an accident." "I know," Jiwoo replied. Through the bond, he felt Bloodfang's alert readiness. The Panther sensed danger. "Then you are not going," Mirai said firmly. "I am," Jiwoo said. "Because if it is a trap, that means Carthon is desperate. He wants me dead before I can expose him, which means his plans are moving forward. If I do not go, I lose my chance to stop him." Mirai stared at him. "You have gotten braver, or stupider. I cannot tell which." "Both, probably," Jiwoo admitted with a weak smile. They planned carefully. Jiwoo would go to the deep vaults as ordered, but Mirai and Daehyun would follow at a distance, hidden in the maintenance tunnels. If Carthon tried to kill Jiwoo, they would capture it on recording equipment. That would be their proof. The day of the meeting came. Jiwoo put on his armor and walked through the palace with Bloodfang at his side. The bond between them thrummed with tension. Both of them knew danger was coming. The deep vaults were far below the main palace. Jiwoo took an elevator down through solid rock. The doors opened into ancient corridors carved from stone. Emergency lights provided dim illumination. The air was cold and smelled like metal. Jiwoo walked deeper into the vaults. Display cases lined the walls, filled with weapons from forgotten wars. Some of them were thousands of years old. General Carthon waited in the central chamber. He was not alone. 12 elite soldiers stood with him, all heavily armed. They wore no insignia or identifying marks. "Thank you for coming, champion," Carthon said. His voice was a low growl. "I wanted to discuss your future." "My future?" Jiwoo asked. He kept his voice steady despite his fear. "You do not belong here," Carthon continued. "You are weak. You are prey. The Panther made a mistake when it chose you. I am going to correct that mistake." The soldiers raised their weapons. Jiwoo felt his heart race. But he also felt something else, through the bond. Bloodfang was ready, and Jiwoo's human mind had already analyzed the chamber, noting exits, cover points, and enemy positions. "You are planning a coup," Jiwoo said loudly, hoping Mirai was recording everything. "You are working with the Hask Federation. You have been stealing military supplies and preparing to overthrow the Emperor." Carthon laughed. "Very clever, little human. Yes, all of that is true. The new Emperor is weak. The Imperium needs strong leadership. I will provide that. But first, I need to remove obstacles. Like you." He signaled the soldiers. They fired. Jiwoo and Bloodfang moved. They had practiced for this. Through the bond, Jiwoo shared his observations. He saw which soldier would fire first based on muscle tension. He noticed which direction Carthon was looking. He tracked movement patterns. Bloodfang reacted instantly to everything Jiwoo observed. The Panther was a blur of crimson fur and deadly precision. Soldiers fell before they could adjust their aim, but there were too many. Jiwoo took a glancing hit to his shoulder. Pain exploded through his arm. He stumbled behind a display case. Then Mirai and Daehyun burst into the chamber. Mirai moved like a professional soldier, her weapon firing with controlled accuracy. Daehyun was less skilled but determined, using a maintenance tool as a makeshift club. The fight was brutal and fast. Carthon was a powerful warrior, but even he could not stand against Bloodfang in close combat. The Panther's jaws closed around the general's arm. Carthon roared in pain and dropped his weapon. Within minutes, it was over. Most of the soldiers were unconscious or restrained. Carthon knelt on the floor, Bloodfang's teeth at his throat. "We got everything on recording," Mirai said, holding up a small device. His confession, the attack, All of it. Jiwoo leaned against the wall, holding his injured shoulder. Adrenaline was making him shake. But they had done it. They had the proof. The recording went directly to the Crown Council. Within hours, the Imperial Guard arrested Carthon and his conspirators. Interrogations revealed the full extent of the plot. The general had planned to assassinate Emperor Thraxion during a state visit to a border world. He would blame the Hask, triggering a war. In the chaos, he would seize control of the Imperial fleet. Carthon was executed for treason. His co-conspirators were imprisoned. The Hask Federation, faced with evidence of their involvement, withdrew from several disputed territories to avoid war. Emperor Thraxion summoned Jiwoo to a private audience. It was the first time they had spoken alone. "You saved my life," the emperor said, "and possibly prevented a civil war. I owe you a debt. 5 R. 5 R. I was just doing my duty," Jiwoo replied carefully. The Thraxion looked at him with his 3 eyes. "When Bloodfang chose you, I thought it was a disaster. I believed the Panther had made an error. I was wrong. You have proven your worth, champion. I will not forget this." That night, Jiwoo sat in his quarters with Bloodfang. His shoulder was bandaged, but healing. Daehyun and Mireille had visited earlier, both proud and relieved. Through the bond, Jiwoo felt Bloodfang's satisfaction. The Panther had known Jiwoo would succeed. He had never doubted. "I was terrified the entire time," Jiwoo told the Panther. Bloodfang's response came as feelings rather than words. Fear was normal. Fear was smart. But acting despite fear was courage. That was why the Panther had chosen him. Jiwoo scratched behind Bloodfang's massive ears. 6 months ago, he had been an invisible archive worker. Now he had stopped a coup and earned the Emperor's respect. His life had become something he never imagined. He was still afraid sometimes. But he was learning that being afraid and being capable were not opposites. They could exist together, and with Bloodfang beside him, Jiwoo was learning he was stronger than he had ever believed possible. 6 months had passed since the choosing. Jiwoo had stopped counting the days. His life as an archive worker felt like it belonged to a different person. Now, he attended war councils. He advised the Emperor on military matters. He commanded respect from warriors who once looked at him with contempt, but he still had therapy sessions with Master Yule twice a week. The old meditation teacher helped Jiwoo process everything that had happened. The fear had not gone away. It had just become more manageable. "You have grown much," Yule said during one session. They sat in the meditation room while Bloodfang dozed nearby. "But you still doubt yourself." I feel like I am pretending," Jiwoo admitted. "Like everyone will realize, I am just making this up as I go." Yule smiled. "Everyone is making it up as they go. The difference is that you know it, and that makes you more careful, more thoughtful. That is not weakness." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message. The Crown Council required Jiwoo's immediate presence. Something had happened. Jiwoo arrived at the council chamber to find Emperor Thraxion looking grim. The other council members were agitated, speaking in worried voices. "We have received a distress signal," the Emperor explained. "From the planet Krelva." Jiwoo felt Bloodfang react through their bond. A surge of emotion. Complex and intense. Worry. Fear. Grief. "Krelva is Bloodfang's homeworld," Jiwoo said. "The place where Crimson Panthers come from." "Yes," the Emperor confirmed. "It is a death world. Extremely dangerous. We established breeding stations there centuries ago to maintain the panther population. The stations are heavily fortified and self-sufficient. They never send distress signals." "What does the signal say?" Jiwoo asked. "That is the problem," said Commander Velkaris. He had become one of Jiwoo's unlikely allies after the coup attempt. "The signal is old. It uses communication protocols from 300 years ago. The message is simple. Help us. Everyone is dying. The council debated for hours. Krelva was incredibly hostile. The gravity was nearly twice Earth's normal. The atmosphere was barely breathable. The wildlife included predators that made Bloodfang look gentle. Any rescue mission would be dangerous and expensive. Many council members wanted to ignore the signal. The breeding stations were automated, one argued. There were only a few dozen personnel. We can rebuild elsewhere. But Jiwoo felt Bloodfang's distress growing. The Panther could sense that something was terribly wrong on his home world. Through their bond, Jiwoo understood. This was not just about the people at the stations. It was about Bloodfang's species, his home, his children. I will go, Jiwoo said, interrupting the debate. Everyone turned to look at him. As Imperial Champion, I have the authority to command the hunt fleet. I will take a team to Krelva and find out what happened. The Emperor studied Jiwoo carefully. This is not required of you, Champion. You have done enough for the Imperium. Lauterbod. Lauterboderbod. Lauterboderbod. NDM. Undefemblers. Bloodfang needs this, Jiwoo replied simply. Thraxian nodded slowly. Very well. But choose your team carefully. Many who go to Krelva do not return. Jiwoo assembled his team over the next day. Instructor Mireille volunteered immediately, now holding the rank of captain. Daehyun insisted on coming despite having no combat training. Someone needs to keep you alive, he said. They were joined by Lieutenant Salmon, a human pilot with a cocky attitude and brilliant skills. Dr. Hyunwoo, a xenobiologist who specialized in hostile environments, nearly jumped at the chance to study Krelva's ecosystem. Commander Velkaris represented Imperial interests, bringing 2 squads of elite Marines with him. They took the Hunt Fleet flagship, the Crimson Moon. It was a powerful ship, designed for operations in dangerous territory. The journey to Krelva took 5 days through hyperspace. Jiwoo spent the time preparing. Dr. Hyunwoo briefed the team on what to expect. Krelva's gravity is 1.7 times galactic standard, Hyunwoo explained. You will feel heavier. You will tire faster. Your armor will feel like it weighs twice as much. The atmosphere has enough oxygen to breathe, but it is thin. You will feel short of breath constantly. The temperature averages 45 degrees. Hot and humid. The wildlife is evolved for extreme aggression and efficiency. Sounds lovely, Soman muttered. Through the bond, Jiwoo felt Bloodfang's tension. The Panther was anxious in ways Jiwoo had never felt before. Krelva was home, but it was also a place of pain and hardship. Bloodfang's species was born in one of the galaxy's harshest environments. They were survivors. When they arrived in the Krelva system, the planet looked beautiful from orbit. It was covered in thick jungle, broken by mountain ranges and vast oceans. 3 moons orbited above dense cloud cover. I am detecting the distress beacon, Salmon reported. It is coming from breeding station Gamma, but I am not detecting any life signs. They took a shuttle down to the surface. The entry was rough. Krelva's atmosphere was thick and stormy. Lightning flashed around them. The shuttle shook so hard, Jiwoo thought it might break apart. When they landed, Jiwoo immediately felt the difference. The gravity pulled at him like invisible hands. Each step took effort. His armor, which felt normal on the ship, now felt like a burden. Breathing was harder. The air was hot and wet, clinging to his skin. Stay close, Velkaris ordered his Marines. Weapons. Ready. Tran. Getting. Weapons. Ready. They found breeding station Gamma quickly. It was a fortress built into the side of a mountain. The walls were scored with claw marks. The main gate hung open, torn from its hinges. Inside, they found horror. Bodies lay everywhere. Aliens from a dozen species. All workers at the breeding station. They had not just died. They had been torn apart. What did this? Mireille asked, her weapon raised. Dr. Hyunwoo examined the bodies carefully. Crimson panthers, he said quietly. The claw marks and bite patterns are unmistakable. But this does not make sense. Panthers are solitary hunters. They do not attack in groups. They do not kill indiscriminately. Through the bond, Jiwoo felt Bloodfang's anguish. This was wrong. This was not how his species should behave. They found evidence of what happened in the station's research logs. A virus had mutated in the local ecosystem. It spread to the panthers being bred at the station. The virus affected their brain chemistry, making them hyper-aggressive and destroying their natural solitary instincts. The infected panthers had banded together into a pack. Then they had killed their handlers and escaped. How many panthers were at this station? Velkaris demanded. 200. Dr. Hyunwoo read from the logs. All infected. All free. In the jungle. The number hit Jiwoo like a physical blow. 200 crimson panthers, each as deadly as Bloodfang, but driven mad by a virus. Hunting as a pack. We need to leave, one of the Marines said nervously. Call in an orbital strike. Cleanse the planet. No, Jiwoo said firmly. Through the bond, he felt Bloodfang's desperate hope. These are his children. His species. We find a cure. There might not be a cure, Dr. Hyunwoo warned. Then we make one, Jiwoo insisted. Hyunwoo examined the virus data from the station's computers. He worked for hours while the team set up a defensive perimeter. The jungle around them was alive with sounds, screams and roars that made everyone nervous. I can synthesize a treatment, Hyunwoo finally announced. But it needs to be administered directly. An injection. Someone would need to get close enough to deliver it. How close? Mireille asked. Touching distance. The team looked at each other. Getting that close to an infected Crimson Panther would be suicide. Getting that close to 200 of them was impossible. I will do it, Jiwoo said. That is insane, Velkaris protested. They will kill you instantly, Mireille added. But Jiwoo had already made his decision. Through Bloodfang, he could feel the presence of the other panthers. They were out there in the jungle, watching the team. Bloodfang was immune to the virus because his decades bonded to the Emperor had changed him somehow. His brain chemistry was different now. Jiwoo had a bond with Bloodfang. If he could extend that feeling to the other panthers, if he could show them he was pack, they might not attack. It was a terrible plan. It would probably fail, but it was the only plan they had. Hyunwoo prepared the treatment in a handheld injector. Jiwoo took off his heavy armor. It would slow him down too much. He wore only light clothing and carried the injector. You do not have to do this, Daehyun said. His friend looked terrified. Yes, I do, Jiwoo replied. He walked into the jungle. Bloodfang stayed close beside him, a warm presence in his mind. The heavy gravity made every step exhausting. The humid air clung to his lungs. Strange sounds echoed through the trees. Then he saw them. Golden eyes watching from the shadows. Dozens of them. Hundreds. The entire pack had gathered. Drawn by Bloodfang's presence, a massive female panther stepped forward. She was larger than Bloodfang, her crimson fur darker, almost black. Through the bond, Jiwoo knew this was Shadowfang, Bloodfang's daughter. She was the pack alpha. Shadowfang moved closer. Muscles tense to kill. Her eyes were wrong, wild with the virus. Jiwoo could see her fighting between instinct and madness. Jiwoo did not run. He opened the bond with Bloodfang fully, letting the panther's presence flow through him completely. For a moment, he was not just human. He carried Bloodfang's essence, his memories, his nature. He was pack. Shadowfang hesitated. Recognition flickered in her eyes. She was still infected, still dangerous, but something reached her. Some part of her remembered family. Jiwoo slowly raised the injector. His hands were shaking. "Please," he whispered. "Let me help." Shadow Fang allowed him to approach. Jiwoo pressed the injector against her shoulder and triggered it. The medicine hissed into her bloodstream. The female panther collapsed. For a terrible moment, Jiwoo thought he had killed her. But then she began breathing normally. The wildness faded from her eyes. The rest of the pack watched. One by one, they approached. One by one, Jiwoo treated them. It took hours. By the end, he was exhausted, barely able to stand. But all 200 panthers were cured. Shadowfang nuzzled against Jiwoo, purring. Through Bloodfang, Jiwoo felt her gratitude. He had saved her people. When Jiwoo returned to the team, everyone stared at him in disbelief. He had walked into a pack of infected predators and walked back out alive, with the panthers cured and following him peacefully. How? Was all Velcaris could say. Jiwoo leaned against Bloodfang, too tired to stand on his own. "I have no idea," he admitted. But it worked. They left Krelva 2 days later after establishing a medical team to monitor the panthers. The pack would recover. The breeding program would be rebuilt properly, with safeguards against future outbreaks. On the journey home, Jiwoo slept for 12 hours straight. When he woke, he found a message from the Emperor waiting. "You continue to surprise me, champion. You have saved not just lives, but an entire species. The Imperium is fortunate to have you." Through the bond, Jiwoo felt Bloodfang's deep contentment. The panther's home was safe. His children would survive. Jiwoo realized something important. 6 months ago, he would have been too afraid to even attempt what he had just done. But he was not that person anymore. The bond with Bloodfang had changed him. He was still scared sometimes, but fear no longer controlled him. He had walked into a pack of deadly predators and saved them all. Not through strength or weapons, but through courage and empathy and trust. Maybe that was what Bloodfang had seen in him from the beginning. The ability to be brave enough to care, even when it was terrifying. 1 year had passed since the choosing ceremony. Jiwoo stood in the Imperial War Room, wearing the crimson and gold armor of his position. The armor no longer felt too heavy. He had grown used to it, just as he had grown used to many things that once terrified him. Emperor the Raxian sat at the head of the massive table, surrounded by his top military advisors. Jiwoo had a permanent seat now, positioned as High Marshal of the Hunt Fleet and primary military advisor. It was a position that gave him real power, real authority. A year ago, that would have paralyzed him with fear. Now he simply did his job. The war room was tense. Everyone had grim faces. The Hask Federation had just launched a massive invasion across 3 imperial sectors. It had been sudden and overwhelming. 3 entire sectors fell within 2 days. Millions of imperial citizens were now under Hask control. They struck with precision, Admiral Guan reported. He was a human officer, old guard military, with decades of experience. Their fleet movements suggest careful planning. This was not opportunistic. They have been preparing this for months. "How did we not see this coming?" the Emperor demanded. Jiwoo had been studying the invasion patterns since the first reports came in. His archive-trained mind worked through the data, looking for patterns that others might miss. Something bothered him about the Hask strategy. "They are not trying to hold territory," Jiwoo said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" the Emperor asked. Jiwoo stood and projected a holographic map of the invasion. Red markers showed Hask positions. Blue markers showed Imperial defenses. "Look at their movements," Jiwoo explained. "They captured these 3 sectors, but they are not fortifying positions. They are not building defensive structures. They are not establishing supply lines for a long occupation. They are moving through the sectors quickly, almost like they are searching for something." Admiral Guan frowned at the map. What would they be searching for? Jiwoo manipulated the hologram, tracing the Hask fleet's path. His heart sank as he saw the pattern clearly. The Nexus stations, he said. They are driving straight toward the central Nexus array. The room went silent. The Nexus stations were ancient relay satellites that controlled all faster-than-light travel in Imperial space. They were thousands of years old, built by a long-dead civilization. The Imperium maintained them, but no one truly understood their technology. If the Hask captured the Nexus, they could shut down the entire Imperial fleet. Ships would be stranded in normal space. Communication would collapse. The Imperium would be crippled. That is brilliant strategy, Commander Velkaris said with grudging admiration. The invasion is a distraction. While we scramble to retake the border sectors, they seize the Nexus. By the time we realize what is happening, it is too late. How long until they reach the Nexus? The Emperor asked. 48 hours, Admiral Guan replied. Maybe less. The Crown Council erupted in debate. Some wanted to send the fleet to retake the captured sectors. Others argued for immediate defense of the Nexus. The arguments grew heated. Jiwoo closed his eyes and thought. Through the bond, he felt Bloodfang's steady presence. The Panther helped him focus. What would work here? What strategy could counter the Hask plan? Then he saw it. The answer that terrified him, because it was risky, and went against everything traditional military doctrine taught. We abandon the border sectors, Jiwoo said loudly. The room went silent again. Everyone stared at him. Are you insane? Admiral Guan said. We do not cede territory to the enemy. We pull all our forces back to the Nexus, Jiwoo continued, his voice steady despite his racing heart. We create a fortified defensive position around the stations. We make it look like we are panicking and retreating. The Hask will think their distraction worked perfectly. They will rush their entire invasion fleet toward the Nexus, expecting us to be disorganized and weak. And then? The Emperor asked. Then we crush them, Jiwoo said. We will have our entire fleet concentrated in one place. They will be stretched thin, thinking they have already won. When they reach the Nexus, they find not a panicking defense, but a trap. The room erupted in arguments. Many of the military officers were horrified. Retreat was cowardice. Abandoning Imperial citizens was unthinkable. This was not how wars were fought. Admiral Guan stood up, his face red with anger. This is exactly why humans should not lead military operations. We did not join the Imperium to teach you to run away. We have honor. We have duty. We do not abandon our people. Jiwoo met the Admiral's eyes calmly. A year ago, that kind of anger would have made him back down immediately. Now he stood his ground. This is not running away, Jiwoo said firmly. This is hunting. We are not prey retreating from predators. We are predators setting a trap. The Hask expect us to fight traditionally, to follow military doctrine, to defend every inch of territory. That is why they will lose. Through the bond, he felt Bloodfang's approval. This was how panthers hunted. They did not charge straight at their prey. They were patient. They waited for the right moment. They used intelligence and strategy. The Emperor studied Jiwoo for a long moment. Then, he looked around at his council. The champion's strategy is sound, Thraxian announced. We will follow his plan. Admiral Guan, begin the withdrawal of all forces to the Nexus defensive perimeter. Make it look panicked. Make it look like we are scrambling. But I want every ship ready for battle when the Hask arrive. Guan's jaw clenched, but he nodded. As you command, Your Majesty. The next 2 days were chaos. The entire Imperial fleet pulled back from the border sectors. To outside observers, it looked like a complete collapse. News networks across the galaxy reported Imperial retreat. The Hask celebrated their apparent victory. But behind the scenes, Jiwoo coordinated with military leaders to position forces perfectly. The bond with Bloodfang helped him maintain awareness across multiple fronts simultaneously. He could process information faster, see patterns more clearly. His human analytical mind, combined with Bloodfang's predatory instincts, created something unique. Ships that looked scattered were actually positioned in precise strike formation. Defensive stations that appeared abandoned were fully armed and waiting. Everything looked like panic, but it was all planned. The Hask took the bait. Their entire invasion fleet rushed toward the Nexus stations. Confident that the Imperium was broken, they reached the Nexus after 46 hours. The Hask fleet was massive, over 1,000 ships. They moved with confidence, already planning their victory celebrations. Then the trap closed. The Imperial fleet appeared from behind the Nexus stations, fully concentrated and ready. The Hask had expected scattered, disorganized resistance. Instead, they faced the entire might of the Imperium in perfect formation. Jiwoo coordinated the battle from the Crimson Moon. He did not command like a traditional admiral. He worked through the bond with Bloodfang, using the connection to maintain awareness across the entire battlefield. He saw patterns in ship movements that others missed. He anticipated Hask strategies before they fully formed. His commands seemed strange to the other officers. Ships moved in patterns that should not work according to military doctrine, but they were devastatingly effective. The Imperial fleet moved like a pack of hunters, coordinating perfectly, striking where the enemy was weakest. Bloodfang sat beside Jiwoo's command chair, calm and focused. Through their bond, the Panther helped Jiwoo process the overwhelming amount of information. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. The battle lasted 6 hours. It was brutal and costly. The Imperium lost ships and lives, but the Hask lost more. Their invasion fleet was shattered. The survivors retreated in complete disarray. By the end, the Nexus stations were secure. The invasion had failed. The Hask Federation had gambled everything on their brilliant strategy, and Jiwoo had countered it perfectly. In the victory celebration, Jiwoo stood beside Emperor Thraxian. The Emperor made a formal announcement before the Crown Council and thousands of assembled beings. Humanity has proven itself beyond any doubt, Thraxian declared. No longer will humans be probationary members of the Imperium. I hereby grant humanity full status, with permanent seats on the Crown Council. And I name High Marshal Jiwoo as Chief Military Advisor for life. The hall erupted in applause. Not everyone was happy, but even the critics had to admit that Jiwoo had saved the Imperium. Admiral Gyuan approached Jiwoo after the ceremony. The old admiral looked tired but sincere. I was wrong about you, Gyuan said formally. I thought humans were too soft, too afraid to lead warriors. You proved me wrong. You taught us that strength comes in many forms. I offer my apology and my respect. He saluted. Jiwoo returned the salute, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Pride, relief, and lingering disbelief that any of this was real. Later that night, Jiwoo returned to his quarters, exhausted. Bloodfang lounged on the massive bed, taking up most of the space as usual. Through their bond, Jiwoo felt deep contentment and pride radiating from the Panther. There was a message waiting from Earth. His family wanted to visit. His younger sister, who was 15, had sent a personal note. I told everyone at school. My brother rides space panthers and saves galaxies. Please do not make me a liar. Jiwoo laughed. Actually, laughed. A year ago, he had been filing data crystals in the archives, trying desperately not to be noticed. Now he was High Marshal, had saved the Imperium multiple times, and commanded respect across 1,000 worlds. Ambassador Hana visited briefly to congratulate him. You have done well, she said. Humanity is in a much better position because of you. I was just trying not to die, Jiwoo admitted. That is how most great things happen, Hana replied with a smile. After she left, Jiwoo received a final message. It was from Master Yul, his meditation teacher. Do you understand now why Bloodfang chose you? Jiwoo looked at the Panther, who watched him with those wise golden eyes. Through the bond, he asked the question he had asked so many times before. Why did you choose me? I was afraid. I had no skills. I was nobody. Bloodfang's answer came not in words, but in feelings and impressions. Because Jiwoo was afraid, but came anyway. Because he thought differently than everyone else. Because he saw patterns others missed. Because he cared about others, even when it was dangerous. Because he was exactly what the Imperium needed, even if no one knew it. Jiwoo scratched behind Bloodfang's massive ears, feeling the Panther's rumbling purr through the bond. I am still terrified sometimes, you know, Jiwoo said. Bloodfang's response was clear. Good. Fear keeps you alive. Fear makes you cautious. Fear makes you think before you act. Fear makes you human. And being human, Jiwoo finally understood, was not a weakness. It was a strength. Humans were adaptable. They thought creatively. They felt empathy. They had courage not because they were fearless, but because they acted despite their fears. That was what Bloodfang had seen in him from the beginning. 5 years later, Jiwoo trained a new generation of bonded pairs. Several more humans had bonded with Crimson Panthers from the restored Krelva population. Other species were learning that the bond was not about physical strength but about connection and trust. The Imperium had entered a golden age. Humanity's full integration brought new perspectives, new technologies, new ways of thinking about old problems. Change was still difficult for many, but it was happening. And in the Imperial archives, now greatly expanded and modernized, there was a special exhibit. Jiwoo had donated it himself. His old archive worker's jumpsuit, the one he had been wearing on the day everything changed. The plaque beside it read, "The Emperor's Crimson Panther chose a new master, a terrified human intern. And the Imperium was never the same." Undocta Manor. Also 940R wine. Undocta Manor. Jiwoo visited the exhibit sometimes, usually late at night when the archives were quiet. Bloodfang always came with him. They would stand there together, looking at the simple gray jumpsuit, remembering how everything began. The bond between them had only grown stronger over the years. They were no longer master and companion. They were partners, friends, family. Sometimes young interns working in the archives would see the High Marshal standing there, the legendary Crimson Panther at his side, and they would feel inspired. If a terrified intern could become this, maybe they could achieve great things too. And Jiwoo would smile because he knew the truth. He had not stopped being terrified. He had just learned that courage was not the absence of fear. It was the decision to keep going, despite it. That was the lesson Bloodfang had been trying to teach him from the very first moment. And it was a lesson Jiwoo would carry for the rest of his life. The Panther had chosen well. Not because Jiwoo was the strongest, or the bravest, or the most skilled, but because he was exactly who he needed to be. A terrified human intern who learned to be brave when it mattered most. And that, in the end, made all the difference.